This is an India Today Global exclusive. This is live coverage that we are getting you on the day of remembrance for victims of terrorism, which is observed on June 23rd. This is the 39th anniversary of the Kanishka bomb tragedy, wherein the Babbar Khalsa Khalistani extremist group was involved in the bombing of an Air India flight, which ended up with the loss of lives of 329 passengers and 22 crew members. It is one of the biggest tragedies, one of the biggest terror attacks that India witnessed, that India faced, and Indian interests were hampered with this attack, and really brought home the fact that Khalistani terrorism, that Khalistanis are a real threat to India. So many years later, we still see Khalistan find space and safe haven in Canada. We have recently seen Hardeep Singh Nijjar. He was being honored with a moment of silence in the Canadian Parliament. He was killed a year ago on the 18th of June. And there was a civil court outside the Vancouver consulate, the Indian consulate in Vancouver, where the Indian government was being held responsible for the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. All this has happened in the context of how ties between India and Canada have dipped. But today, as a response to the kind of space that we see Khalistanis get in Canada, the Indian consulate in Toronto all have responded. They've come out saying that we will remember the victims of Khalistani terror on June 23rd. We have on the ground Devi, who joins us. She is from the Hindu Forum Canada, Devi Vaidya, and we will be going to her and speaking to her. But it is at the South Lawns of Queen's Park in Toronto that the Indian diaspora has come out in full strength, honoring the victims of that Kanishka bomb tragedy. These are live, exclusive visuals that we are playing out for our viewers over here. We will go to Devi in just a bit, but there are some people who had spoken earlier on the loss of life, how they have been victims, and they are families of those victims who lost their lives in that tragedy. Let's just listen to a few people. We'll talk about the Khalistani disruption, and then we'll come to Devi. Right. We'll just try playing those bites of the victims out. There's some who have been there for a while, and that's Devi Vaidya. Let's just go to Devi Vaidya while we pull out those reactions of the victims. Devi, thank you so much for joining us here on India Today Global. Just a while ago, there were visuals of Khalistani elements with their flags right there at Queen's Park. Tell us about the disruption, then we'll come to talk about solidarity.
So, as you already know, this is a remembrance memorial service for all the victims who were tragically lost in the bombing of Air India 182. And this is a respectful event to honor their lives. However, we see the entire Khalistani group here chanting right across of where we have the memorial service going on. No respect for all the poor victims who were lost. And they're just here chanting and opposing and not respecting all the tragic lives that were lost.
So we can see the visuals. We can see to your left are the supporters who are there honoring the victims of the tragedy, and to your right we see, Devi, that there are those flags, those banners. They're being allowed to be there.
They're being allowed to be there, and if you see here, we do have a police force right here in case there's any violence or breakouts, and there is nothing happening to stop all of these chants, and it's just absolutely disrespectful. You will see that the enforcement is present at this location, and the chants are continuing with banners and hateful slogans.
How disturbing is it, Devi, as somebody from the Indian diaspora, you and many others were speaking a while ago with those who are affected, those who are impacted. We just had one lady who spoke about her sister and her niece dying in that Kanishka bomb tragedy. We'll try playing that reaction out in just a bit. But those are very important reactions that have come from you. These are exclusive visuals. The Hindu Forum Canada has done a lot of work. But in terms of the solidarity and the space that you see Canada now give to these elements, your thoughts on, first, the fact that there was a moment of silence in the Canadian Parliament for Hardeep Singh Nijjar. I mean, Canada might think of him as a Canadian national, but how many Canadian nationals have lost their lives in the past to terrorist attacks, and how many of them actually were honored in the Canadian Parliament, Devi?
I lost you there for a little bit, but could you repeat your question?
Absolutely, absolutely. I was just saying that if you could give us first your reaction to how you see Canadian government allow the space to Khalistanis, and also Hardeep Singh Nijjar, Devi, might have died a Canadian citizen, and but there are so many Canadians who've lost their lives in wars and battles and many other places to terrorist attacks. But how many of them are actually honored in the Canadian Parliament? Why this honor for Nijjar?
I feel honestly distraught, and my sentiments are shared across the community that is here to honor all the victims. And it is honestly so disappointing, all these victims that do not get representation, and all of the hate that is being promoted by this group is just honestly, it's appalling.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of safe havens, we know that there is a lot that the government has to do. But the thin line that they talk about, freedom of speech, when you see what you're seeing, do you see freedom of speech, or you see violation of the respect and honor? Because they do threaten Indian diplomats, they have threatened Indian leadership, and while they put out maybe a small rider to every threat that they make, there is the reality that Canada will have to act against at least some of those who are openly threatening Indian leadership, Indian individuals, particularly Indian diplomats.
Like I said before, it is honestly appalling. I wish we did get enough proper, correct representation, and I do hope that this memorial service opens up dialogue for discussion about Canadian safety, and how Indian and Canadian alliance is actually a positive growth, and it should not be opposed in different fashions. And we are in support of unity among the communities here, and that's all I'd like to say.
If you could just take us through the visuals again, Devi. I know that there is a Shraddhanjali, or an honor, or a remembrance memorial that's underway right now. If you could go closer and just show us the visuals, and then maybe come back and show us what's happening on the other side.
Of course.
And this is quite disturbing. So while Devi moves to where the memorial service is taking place, I'll ask my producers again to maybe play the sound bites of the family members of the victims who actually spoke to us earlier.
My niece was 8-year-old and 6 months. My sister worked in the Ministry of Health, and she was a mother to everybody, friends to anybody, stranger, even the stranger she loved. all the people in this world she loved. And the child was like my own. My husband and my niece and nephews all here. My husband died. My brother-in-law died also recently. Murthy, the father of my Veena Subramaniam, Lakshmi Subramaniam. Thank you. Will go away. One of my family lost forever. It's so difficult for me to live. My life was changed practically everything, and I have been missed them a lot. And God bless. I hope and pray no more happens this terrorism, and it have to be whoever it is done, they all should be punished.
Right.
Okay. ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ
Yes, I can hear you.
Right, Devi. I can. So that was one of the family members of a victim speaking to India Today Global. But if I could come back to you, these are important statements coming from various family members, and now you're walking from where that memorial service is taking place to the very other side, where the Khalistanis have put out their banners and are standing right there. What happened earlier in the day, Devi? We saw that you guys were trying to prepare yourselves, and they were very close to where you were.
Yes, so they were close to where we were, and then once the memorial service started, the law enforcement kind of helped move them away to respect the victims and respect the memorial service.
Right, and now they're away. Is there any anticipation or fear that they could come and disrupt the entire proceeding?
Right now, they seem to be quite peaceful. They are maintaining their distance. As you can see, this is where they are, and this is where the memorial service is. And standing in between, we have the law enforcement should they try to come over to this side.
That's an interesting visual you'd give us. You see, when we were reporting out of the United States of America, when Prime Minister Modi was there on a state visit, the same visuals play out. You have the Indian diaspora, the ones who are supporting an Indo-US, over here India-Canada, but Indo-US friendship, relationship, and then you have the Khalistani elements come, and they were almost face to face till the cops had to come and separate them, and then they created a barricade. So over here, the men in blue that you see, dark blue, on bicycles, are the cops who are trying to ensure that there's a safe distance being maintained between the Queen's Park, where the South Lawns, where the memorial service is taking place, and the other side where the Khalistanis are standing and shouting slogans, if I'm not wrong, Devi. We can't clearly hear them, but the videos that you sent earlier clearly showed how they were shouting slogans on the other side. Now, coming back to the politics of it, what are your expectations as a young person living in Canada from the government of Canada? We see a lot of to and fro between the Indian government and the Canadian government. Do you think that has really impacted relations between the two countries, that could impact real business between the two countries?
I definitely do think that there has been an impact on the economic ties between India and Canada, and also the social ties. And I know that due to all that's happening, there's been some strain, and I do wish for that strain to be gone, and for Canadian and Indian ties to grow stronger. And as a previous Indian citizen and now Canadian citizen, I do hope for peace between the two countries, and I hope that these kind of movements are not causing any riffraff, any further riffraff between the countries.
Right. We do have other members of the Hindu Forum Canada who are also there. How long will this memorial service go on? How many people have gathered? Are they just from the Indian diaspora? We see a lot of Canadians also who've come. is there any opinion or voice that you hear from the Canadians living there, not of Indian origin, but have they come out and spoken about the concerns with regards to the rise in Khalistani elements and the vote bank politics, Devi? We will discuss the vote bank politics, but have they raised concerns about, and if you could go across and maybe speak to a few people, have they raised concerns? There are gentlemen over here who've come to us and spoken earlier. So if they could speak to us and tell us what are the concerns that they have with regards to Khalistani elements getting so much space in Canada.
Yes, we could definitely find somebody to talk
Guys,
about
come
that.
on in. Come on in, guys. Picture
Okay.
killing, please come on in.
Okay.
You need to show a group picture.
Okay,
So right now they are doing the group picture with everybody present. And once that is done, we will be able to get everybody in for an interview.
okay. So are they mostly from the Indian diaspora or also Canadian families who were impacted because of the
So
Kanishka bombing?
this is everybody. So we have all the different communities, Hindu diaspora. We have also the Israeli community joining us, and then we have the victims and friends. Victims' family and friends present here. This is, as you can see, some of them are holding banners and pages saying no to terrorism and no to Khalistani terrorism, as you can see.
Right. So those are exclusive visuals coming in from Toronto. We're going live with the memorial service of Kanishka bombing. It was one of the worst and the most heinous attacks that we witnessed in those times. 329 passengers lost their lives and about 22 crew members. Very clear that there is a problem when it comes to groups who take up arms against states, and India has been calling out Canada for supporting such groups that are secessionist in nature and also take up arms against the state. But in the name of freedom of speech, if space is given to these groups and these organizations, it becomes a problem when that thin line is crossed. There have to be red lines, and those red lines don't seem to be visible at this point in time when it comes to the Khalistanis in Canada, particularly Canada, because it is home to one of the largest groups of Khalistanis. There are Khalistani groups in other countries, including the United States of America and the United Kingdom.
We do not want hate. We all are brothers. We all are all Canadians. All Canadians. Khalistan. Khalistan. We Canadians are. We Canadians are. Number two. Number two. Number two. Khalistan. Khalistan.
So that's sloganeering that's happening there in Toronto. That's Queen's Park, where you see all those who are victims, who are families of victims, also many from the Indian diaspora who do not want Khalistan be given the space that Khalistan gets, are all there together, and they're saying that they need to stand together to fight the menace of Khalistani terrorism. So that's them. That was a joint photograph after the honoring of the victims of Kanishka bombing of 1985, and now they're all dispersing. We will try to get Devi, where they will try to get some of them to speak to us. We're also waiting for Rahul to join us in just a bit.
Yeah.
So Devi, if we could get some of the community members to come join.
We have Rahul coming in for an interview.
Okay, perfect. So just patch him in and maybe turn the camera around so we can speak with Rahul now. And he's also from the Hindu Forum Canada. So let's just go across to to Rahul and get a word in from him as well. So that's who we're looking at is Rahul Yendamuri, who will be joining us. Rahul Yendamuri joins us from Hindu Forum Canada. And um, is that Rahul? Can you hear me, Rahul?
Okay. Yeah, a little low, but that's okay.
Okay. So, Rahul, we see that you were there, you were fronting the entire service over there. What really happened in terms of the preparations and the yellow flags that we see on the other side? Let's start with the disruption, then we'll speak about solidarity.
Sure. So ideally, there is a procedure in all countries similar to how it is in India, right? If you want to perform some sort of a procession, a protest, you want to offer your condolences or have some sort of an event, it is required to seek government permission and also take security and support from the police department in the local jurisdiction so that things are performed in a very hassle-free manner where you can stop riots or any unanticipated acts of violence. So in this case, while to offer the ceremony and the services you see on this side, you have people who have taken the permission from the government, who have seek the support of the police department of Ontario in the Greater Toronto area to conduct this particular event to offer their condolences. But at the same side, on the other side, there are Khalistani activists who have not taken permission from the government. And because they have not taken permission from the government, there is a long list of police officers who had to leave their duty, come here, and quickly segregate the people who have not taken permission to indulge in this kind of a protest to avoid any sort of violence that might occur on site and any sort of disturbance that would disturb the whole offerings of condolences towards the loss that was incurred by the family of 329 people.
Right, right. Rahul, a very important point over here that you make. They did not take permission. That in itself is a serious matter, because we know that in all the other cases where they're protesting, they do seek permission, they do seek clearances to protest at a designated area. In today's case, you're saying they had not taken permission at all.
Correct. That is absolutely true. And that is why the police are here. And that is why they've built a barricade, right? If you look around at the cops, you see they're standing in between the people who have here, who've been taking that permission, who are trying to be able to offer their condolences in memory of the lost souls and young lives of Canadians that were taken, while the police is busy trying to safeguard the people who have taken the permission from the activists and extremists who did not even bother to take permission. And on top of that, when the memorial service was being offered and everybody was participating in demonstrating their condolences through an act of indulging in silence for a few moments, the Khalistanis started yelling even louder to disturb this entire activity that's going on. So that speaks volumes about the extremist mindset and also how they intend to indulge and interfere with peacekeeping activities. I hope that answers the question to its entirety.
Hello, Geeta, are you there? We wouldn't need the speakers. We cannot hear her.
You are coming here. Tell.
Well, we're trying to get the connection through. Can you hear me?
Yes, Geeta, we can hear you. Please proceed.
Perfect. So I'm saying that, okay, we've seen this, we've seen the aspect of the Khalistanis, but now let's just talk about solidarity as well. We've seen the Canadian Parliament honor Hardeep Singh Nijjar, and again, as a response, the Indian state has come through. They have they tweeted about the Remembrance Day, they tweeted about the memorial service, and today the community has come together. Do you see the community stand up to this growing concerns with regards to Khalistani extremism?
Yeah, I think it is very evident, Geeta, that the community has come together. Like you can see right behind me, you see people not just of India alone, but people from other nations. And here is the thing, right? As much as the lives that were lost belong to 280 Canadian citizens, these lives constituted of people of different origins who were born and brought up in different geographies across this globe, who came together to the country of Canada to build a better life for themselves. And at this point, these people being Canadian citizens who belonged and were natives of different countries, all those people from different countries where these unfortunate events of people losing their lives has occurred, all these people are here in support, offering their support towards the lost lives, and also trying to ensure that the Canadian government takes a stand and maybe perform some sort of a combing operation to stop terrorist activities from ever occurring on Canadian soil again. That is the push towards the Canadian government.
Okay. In terms of the letter proposals, we've seen your organization, the Hindu Forum Canada, write to the administration time and again. What's the response that you get from the Canadian administration?
Well, I think it is a classic example where we are talking about how politics works in general across the globe, and politics is always an appeasement business, right? Ideally, we need people who are leaders, who will work towards people impartially, do the right thing for the people that have elected them, who trust them to do the right thing. But today, the world is at a stage where politics anywhere across the globe, people are indulging in appeasement politics. So as part of this, from Hindu Forum Canada, whenever we request a request from the administration of Canada, we seldom hear a response. And whenever is that rare occasion we do, it hasn't been satisfactory. So even if you try to go back to our whole timeline on Hindu Forum Canada, what we posted on Twitter, we also met one of the mayoral electoral candidates for the city of Mississauga in 2019 and 20, around the whole COVID era, when there was some sort of contrasting comments made by her. Then when we reached out to her saying, in the past, a few years ago, you made this comment, how do you respond to it today? It is very customary that a politician says, standard management answers like it depends. So she said, oh, my statements were misinterpreted. I think she still won the election that was conducted on June 10th in the city of Mississauga. So we are yet to see how these politicians who committed to us when questioned, saying their statements were misinterpreted, could actually turn out in terms of actions. Actions not meeting or matching words is manipulation, and you avoiding being held responsible for it is gaslighting.
Okay.
And this is the nature of politics. So I think we want the Canadian government to stop the appeasement, take a stand towards what is right for the Canadian citizens, and work towards embedding peace deeper into this whole Canadian constitution.
Right, Rahul, we'll talk about appeasement. That's a very important point you make. We'll talk about appeasement. We'll talk about Canadian elections that are not so far away from now. But before that, I'll play out some more reactions of the victims of the families of the victims of the Kanishka bombing. Let's and when I return, maybe you could have some more from the community join you and hold that mic and maybe do a few interviews with them. So let's just play out a few reactions, and then I come back to you. I'll ask you about appeasement, upcoming elections, and then maybe a conversation with the community. Okay? All right.
Absolutely.
So let's just play out a few reactions.
Right now, we are going to talk to Mr. Sal.
So Rahul,
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ
just wait.
ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਜਸਟ ਟੂ ਗੋ ਐਂਡ ਗਿਵ ਆਰ ਸ਼ਰਧਾਂਜਲੀ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਲਾਈਫ ਇਸ ਇੰਸੀਡੈਂਟ 'ਚ ਗਵਾਈ innocent life lost is a big crime. So just go ahead and here to go ahead and give my condolence to the victim's family.
Hello, my name is Mark Levesque. Like my sergeant said there, we're here to support the families and victims of terrorism. So thank you for having us. And
All right, so those were reactions that were coming in from before the event started. Let's just go back to Rahul, who joins us from the ground, from Queen's Lawns. Rahul, thank you again, for doing this. It's an important day. It's a very important event. The world has to watch and understand and know what's really happening on the ground. We've seen how the Khalistanis use the social media space to propagate, to put forth their own agenda. But right now we're looking at an India counter. This is India's counter to. This is India's counter to what the Khalistanis do, Rahul. We've seen the Khalistanis use the social media space quite widely so. But this is your opportunity to put your voice forward. We see that you've gathered a few people around. Before you go to them, let's talk about the politics of it. How much of this appeasement that you call, how much of this tolerating the Khalistanis has to do with vote bank politics?
Can you repeat the last part of the question, please?
How much of the politics that you see of keeping quiet and tolerating the Khalistanis or even celebrating with them has to do with elections and vote bank politics, Rahul?
It has a lot to do with election and vote bank politics, right? So when you think of the demographics of Canada in terms of its population, there are a good number of people who come from that community. Now, are all of them Khalistanis? Do all of them want some sort of a separation? Are all of them activists? That's not for us to judge. I don't think it would be wise of me to judge on that, but definitely it impacts the vote bank. And that is why there is this appeasement politics. If it would not impact the vote bank, why would a politician ever bother to appease, right? So I think that's the biggest bargaining chip here that we have. See, right now I have another gentleman here. Yeah. He's not a pro-Khalistani supporter. He's not looking for separatism. If you see how he's put his turban, he has the Tiranga, the Indian flag on it. So this is him speaking about unity. There are other such gentlemen who are great souls inside every community, who want unity, who want all nations to prosper and who look for peace. That does not mean that all of them are against anybody, but there are some unsocial activists and people out there who are making it feel as though everyone from that community is someone who's looking for violence. That is not the true ground level reality.
Absolutely.
And politicians are also cashing in on this situation.
Absolutely, I agree. I agree on that count, Rahul. Before you ask the gentleman a question, let's just put it. Let's put the record straight here on India Today Global. We nowhere say that Sikh, the entire Sikh community in Canada are Khalistanis. In fact, if anything, it's only a minority of the population that is actually Khalistani. So let's go back, Rahul, to you asking a few questions to the gentleman over there as to what does he think about this divide that we see in the Canadian society today.
Yes, in 85 Kanishka. Yes, that's funny.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. No, sister.
जी सर. Alright. तो सर आपसे इंडिया थोड़ा आज ये पूछना चाहता है कि आपको कैसे लगता है जब लोग आपको देखकर ऐसे उनको मानना चाहता है कि आप भी एक खालिस्तानी है, आप भी ऐसे सबको बिछड़ना चाहते हैं, आप भी कुछ ऐसे हत्याकांड करना चाहते हैं. जब लोग आपको देखकर ऐसी मुद्रा करते हैं तो आपको कैसे महसूस होता है और आपको क्या लगता है कनाडा क्या महसूस कर रहा हो?
खाली पगड़ी पहनने से ये नहीं कह सकते कि खालिस्तानी है. मैं सिख हूँ, हिंदुस्तानी हूँ, ठीक है, मैं कनेडियन हो गया हूँ, बट वी शुड रिस्पेक्ट ऑल द कनेडियंस एंड इंडियन. That's the more important. That they are doing their work, we should do our work. We are demonstrating peacefully. That's our part. Everybody should do their own part. Not indulge in other kind of activities which और किसी दूसरे से इन्फ्लुएंस होकर कुछ नहीं करना चाहिए. अपने मन की बात करनी चाहिए. और we are every time with the country. Thank you.
One minute, sir. Sir.
Right.
Gentleman Tamiraj.
Okay. At the same time, I have another gentleman. Like I said, Mr. Salman from Iran is here. He is here with me today. So, my friend, Please tell me, why are you here today? What is it that you see today on either sides of the stage, and how do you feel?
So my name is Salman Sima, former political prisoner from Iran. Today we are here to remember the victims of the flight Air India 182. It was the worst terrorist attack in 1985 in Canadian history. 329 people were killed. So, and unfortunately, we see that Western government, Canadian government, they don't stand against terrorism as much as it is necessary. Look at that regime in Pakistan. They play a role in international terrorism. Regime in Iran, they did the same thing. They attacked to the Ukrainian airline flight PS752 and they killed 176 people. So we are here to say that we don't want Canada full of terrorism. We want Canada free of terrorism. And we are here no matter what. I see some Jewish friend, I see some Indian friend from different background. I'm Iranian. We are here for peace, unity, and united against hatred. And unlike Canadian government, when they deliver the empty word, we show this unity in action.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want to talk to Daniel Bondman? Daniel.
All right. Now we're going to talk to Mr. Daniel Broadman. This gentleman has been very pivotal and instrumental in how this whole event has been going along today. He has also spent time to talk to the police to ensure that they stop any sort of unruly Khalistani activism behavior that might impede with the session today. So, Daniel, what was your experience when you came in this morning? How did you feel when you saw this procession on the other side of the ground? What fear did it cause in you in terms of its ability to impede the peaceful crossing that we were going to do?
So I found out about their nonsense yesterday. A friend sent me their flyer where they were going to come and disrupt. And I know for weeks I've been told by many people in the community about this event. You know, I wasn't the organizer, but I did share it around and with my networks and promote it because I believe in supporting the victims of terrorism, and I believe in opposing the perpetrators of terrorism. So I wouldn't say I was afraid. I was more mad. I was ticked off. I won't swear on your lovely thing, but if you at home can insert a swear word mentally, I'd appreciate it. And when I saw them, you know, coming to set up to harass me, my image is like, no, I don't want this. This is not my country. I'm not going to let it happen. The victims of terrorism are the people murdered by the terrorists. And the people who support the terrorists, they don't get to come here and pretend to be, oh, they're standing with us and they're doing a prayer. No, this is an act of intimidation. And I know how violent they are. I know the Khalistanis murdered witnesses in the trial. I know that gang violence is the name of the game. But there's more important things than personal safety. Freedom is more important than safety, and honor is more important than safety. And if you give up both, you're not going to be free or safe. And on my life, I'm not going to let the Khalistanis come unimpeded. You know, they want to run around in a park and it's fine. But on the anniversary of the Kanishka bombing, when the victims' families are here, no. They don't get to come and set up and do their thing unimpeded. So when they came, I went to go give them a piece of my mind. I explained to the cops what was happening. The cops thought that they had the permit, even though our side had the permit. And I had to explain to the cops because most of the Canadian security establishment doesn't even know who perpetrated the largest terrorist attack in our history. They don't know the difference between, you know, Khalistan and Sikhism. They don't know the difference between, like, you know, the Barbar Khalisa and they don't even know the between a terrorist organization and like a literal Canadian flag. This is how clueless we are. So I felt it was important to get here early, make sure I was here before the Khalistanis, so that when they came and tried to set up, they couldn't, because they wanted to set up before us, just so the police knew, so they couldn't come. Because if we didn't do anything, if we just stood here and let them do whatever, the Khalistanis would be around the Air India memorial, right on top of the memorial, for the bombing they caused. And I saw them, they're wearing T-shirts with convicted terrorists on them, from Arctic Signajar to Tawinder Parmar. It's disgusting. This is like if neo-Nazis showed up at a Holocaust memorial in full Nazi regalia, claiming to be there for the real victims of the Holocaust and stand up for Adolf Hitler. It's preposterous, it's disgusting, and I just my thought is no. Like I'm not going to let it stand. I'm not just going to let that happen because if we confuse victims and perpetrators and is there a difference between the people who bomb the airplane and the people who blown up in the airplane? If we can't get it right, then the whole country's in collapse.
Right.
And you see that the moral breakdown of the West is in full swing. So if I could do my part to just have some sense of moral clarity on the ground, then it's literally second.
Right.
Absolutely, Daniel. And I think you've done a great job today setting everything up. I'm sure it definitely disturbed your peace of mind when you saw the slogans going on while we were demonstrating through peace.
Yeah,
right.
Listen, as a Jew, I understand what happens when the people who threaten to kill you all day brag about killing you, and then for 5 seconds say, "We didn't do what you did. Come here to harass you and gaslight." It's disgusting. Our community has suffered it. Your community suffers it, and we're not going to suffer it alone.
And the whole of Canada is continuing to suffer it.
Yes.
Till this comes to an end.
So this comes to, people don't realize. It might start with Hindus, it might start with Jews, but it's
going to hurt everybody.
Churches are burning in this country.
Absolutely.
Because churches are burning. We're a Christian country. I'm proud. I'm not Christian. I'm proud of our Christian heritage. And
Right.
I'm utterly ashamed that the churches are being burned in our country. Churches. And
Rahul.
of course, so when Hindu temples are harassed, when synagogues are shot up, it's all related. And it's important that we come and we are strongly on the side of normalcy and against the forces of evil.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time, Daniel. And thank you for organizing all of this.
Right. Rahul, a very significant message and statement there coming from the community. Canadians who've come out in support, who've come and ensured that there was a smooth process of this entire memorial service that took place in Toronto. But Rahul, I see that you're saying goodbye. And while you do that, I'll ask Devi to maybe go across now and just show us what that memorial looks like, so that we can close the show by showing the memorial and then the place where people went and paid their respects and left flowers and bouquets. So if you could go across to the park, we will just show the visuals, come to you, and maybe close this conversation.
Absolutely. So Devi will guide you through that. She's going to give you a walkthrough of the whole memorial ground. As you can see, there are a lot of people here. We had some high delegates also attend. There were people from the CG's office at Cambodia. You still see few dignitaries and delegates here. This is where the memorial was placed. So you can see people did take time to bring flowers, place flowers there, put in some incense sticks, honoring the memory of loved ones that passed away.
Right. So those are visuals of the memorial service, a tit for tat by India and the Indian diaspora to the Khalistanis, who have been raising voices for secessionist elements within Canada. And while they try to disrupt the entire proceedings today, the Good Samaritans within the Canadian community came out and sought the help of the Canadian police to barricade the entire area, create a space so that they are separated. They did not take permission for the protest, whilst the Indian community and the families of the victims of the Kanishka bombing did take permission. So that proceeding and the memorial service went on smoothly. And it certainly is a response that the community is alive, that the community will stand together and fight the elements who work against India, who are secessionist in nature. And the Canadian government will have to have a rethink on how they should continue looking at this entire problem. On that note, it's goodbye from me from the India Today Global Studio.
Sorry, could you repeat your question?
Geeta, could you repeat that?